We're going to call to order the February 12th, 2024 meeting of the Laramie Planning Commission. Clerk, roll call please.
Dixon. Here. Matamore.
Here.
O'Toole.
Here.
Priscilla.
Here.
Schneider. Here. And Moody.
Here.
That's 6 present and 1 vacancy.
Okay. Are there any changes to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Second?
Second.
A second from Jake. All those in favor of the agenda approval, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Agenda will proceed as presented. We've got a meeting minutes for January 22nd. Is there a motion to approve minutes? Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jay. All those in favor of approving these minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, minutes, from January 22nd meeting approved. The next item of business or city minutes, non-agenda related topics, no action will be taken. Is there anybody out there? Seeing none, we'll move to the planning commission and staff reports and comments there.
Chair, Commissioners, I have one item that I'd like to bring up. And I don't know if I'll see if these guys have any other things that they want to bring up. Just for the general public's information, as well as for anyone on the commission who may have great connections with developers. The city of Laramie is embarking on redevelopment of the North 4th Street property, the former city of Laramie streets and public solid waste and public works facilities on 4th Street. Today, we released the RFP for seeking developers to partner with the city on a mixed-use housing and commercial development on that property. This is something that the city has never really embarked on, and so we really are just trying to get the word out, encouraging the public to reach out to our offices, the planning department's office, with any questions they may have, and passing along this information and this opportunity to anyone who can be interested. This is really an exciting thing, I think, for the city of Laramie in terms of trying to leverage a piece of property that it owns for the broad betterment of the community in terms of one, taking a bunch of unused buildings that are no longer used currently in the city of Laramie and trying to meet goals and objectives of our community related to housing and commercial development. And so I just encourage you, the RFP is found in multiple locations on our city website. If you type in the RFP, it'll pop up a couple times. We put it under our doing business section. We've done it under properties for sale by the city section of our code or of our website, as well as under the plannings page. We're going to be getting notices out to kind of regional organizations and different avenues like that. We're going to reach out to our local realtors. And so I want that on your radar just so that you know that it's out. It's going to be a few-month process to allow for proposals to potentially develop and then for consideration in the future. So we'll be kind of looking at that April timeframe, hopefully. And so it's all in the RFP. I didn't want to spend just a ton of time going through a lot of dates because there's just simply too much information here. But I really encourage you, if you know developers who are interested in housing or commercial development, to pass this information along to them. Be happy to take any questions on that.
Is it more conceptual, the RFP dealing with the development of conceptual plans, or is it actual construction of specific things?
The city is seeking a partner to physically develop this property, buildings But if you read the RFP, it is a RFP that allows for innovative design, creativity. But also, we know this needs to be successful for the developer in terms of a business decision, as well as from the city side of things in terms of meeting its goals and objectives to create housing and commercial property. So,
Thank you. I just pulled it up here and was looking at it. It's due April 18th. What, are you expecting like a design or just a conceptual kind of like narrative of what your, what level of effort, and it's 2 months and a couple of days enough time for a developer to be able to do something like that?
Chair, it's a good question. So a lot of times what you'll see with a proposal like this is some sort of a conceptual plan. But what's actually usually more important is the actual financials behind actually putting a project like this together and understanding that. If you look at the information that we're gonna be asking for, we're looking for somebody that can actually do this project.
Not just with.
Not just whether they can design buildings that fit into space.
Okay.
Because what the city wants to do is not be the one doing the project. We don't believe that we're the best equipped to actually do the project. And so by finding developers and people that do this for their livelihood, we think we're gonna get a better product for the community. A lot of times what you'll see at this stage are very conceptual, usually number-based, so a certain amount of units, certain amount of square footages, but designs and all those things aren't usually completely fleshed out. Now, some proposals may be, because that may be an integral part of the actual development proposal that they're proposing to the city. But that's gonna be up to the developer and the different people that potentially propose. And so we're testing the waters here. This is kind of in line with what we've seen other communities do. And so we think that it's gonna be the right amount of time, but I'll let you know in April.
All right.
And maybe there'll be another one, so.
Eric, since you're looking for a concept, you guys would be amenable to the temple of a nice tall spire.
Chair, commission, it's gonna be the full package for the development. Proposal is what I'm looking for.
That'd be just what our community needs.
So you are looking for somebody with deep pockets who's has a background in this development.
Chair, once again, I really don't wanna really say exactly who the right person and group could be for this. I mean, yeah, they're probably gonna have to have some sort of financing, but maybe it's through investors. I just don't know. And we really try to leave the RFP wide open in terms of creative proposals. And it may come with phasing. There's a lot of factors that could come with it. So I mean, probably somebody's gonna have some sort of money to do some sort of a project, but it could come in a lot of different ways, I think.
The RFP delineates the land area that, okay, I'll read that.
All right. Any comments, Commissioner?
I have one thing.
Oh, you know, bring it up.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, just wanted to follow up. Unfortunately, no staff was able to attend the All Aboard Northwest meeting last week on the passenger rail corridor possibilities in this area and in the Northwest. Commissioner O'Toole was there. I'd love to hear his thoughts on it, but we do have a follow-up presentation from Dan Vilka, the president of All Aboard Northwest, that I believe gave a presentation that we can certainly share with planning commissioners and try to relay any questions that you may have to him, who seems very receptive to any questions related to passenger rail.
Donald, you were there.
So I was there, so the attendance was pretty cool. There were 5 people, and 3 like to talk. And I guess I mostly have a question, and that is, has the city or the county made a formal response to whatever that federal entity is? Which is the long distance, which deals with long distance rail transportation. Has the city taken a position of, yes, we would like to have a connection with Cheyenne?
Yes, we did. It was like when this process first started. I think council did a resolution, if I remember correctly. I would have to go back and pull it up in our letter of support. But we formally have said, yeah, we support the idea of the concept.
Because they're now in the final stages of the process in which they have marked out what they consider to be good target connections. And the deadline, but the deadline on the federal website is vague. It says the winter of 2024. And I was going to put in a personal comment, but I was wondering whether the city would be interested in putting in a comment, yes, especially if the rail line between Pueblo and Fort Collins or Cheyenne, if that is really on the drawing board, it would be wonderful to have a connection between here and Cheyenne, not further east or further west.
Like I said, I recall doing it, and I recall getting it, this resolution or letter, but I mean, it's, you know, do we submit another one? I mean, could, it's, I don't think they'll.
Isn't the letter that was sent 3 years ago mostly of archaeological interest? It's old.
Yeah, I mean, but
So now that they have refined some of the routes, and it's not clear what routes they are preparing, but the Laramie to Cheyenne route is still on their map on the website. It might be good to, you know, sort of be and three-legged dog writing a letter to these guys, it would have more impact if the letter came from city letter, planning group.
I mean, I would encourage you to definitely send your own. What I can do is also Janine Jordan, our city manager, she attended the meeting that they held in Cheyenne. And I would probably want to just coordinate with her in terms of if we're doing maybe a joint letter. I'm wondering if that's maybe why she was over there as well as part of that. I just haven't had a chance from last week to follow up with her on exactly what direction she wants us to go with that. I mean, we've been supportive in the past, so I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't be still. It still makes sense from us from a long-term planning perspective. So, but I mean, I think a letter from the city or someone bigger than just individuals is probably for the best. And I think that's easy.
And you're probably aware that Cheyenne has established a committee that's dealing with, especially I think the connection with the Fort Collins to Pueblo light rail system. And they would probably be the best people to communicate with in terms of, they've only had 2 meetings so far. And they were only established, I think, in November, but they had another meeting in January, I think, and the minutes were not posted. But they would be the right people to talk to.
Yeah, I want to say that committee is through their MPO, which is their Metropolitan Planning Organization, which helps them kind of deal with some of their broader, let's say, regional planning issues. But I think it's a good idea. We can look into it.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think there'd be any interest at the state level of, let's say, that you get Cheyenne to Laramie, and then you start thinking Laramie to Salt Lake City, you know, and sort of. But anyway,
Well, one of the comments that came up in the meeting was in terms of kids going home for the weekend and coming back on the weekend, that would be really good service as far as the is concerned, in order to get kids safely here rather than trying to get across I-80.
okay. Thanks a lot, that was good. Any other comments? On to disclosure of ex parte communications and potential conflicts of interest.
Yeah, I will be recusing myself, Discussion. Six. I, but I'm changing this license for the second request. If you. Need to go. Is that? Right.
Okay, very good. Okay, on to the first order of business, conditional use permit -23-10, for 55 North 15th Street, Green Hill Cemetery, Laramie. Bill.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. We're here to present the application for the conditional use permit for the addition of a columbarium within the Green Hill Cemetery, city-owned operated facility. This columbarium, essentially for people, as a definition, is a dedicated space for urns containing ashes. Hence enhancing the cemetery's offerings and meeting communities' evolving needs. As mentioned in the description, the proposed location for the columbarium is 455 North 15th Street. That is within the whole cemetery, within the R3 zoning district. In our review, the drawings and such associated with this conditional use permit are in compliance with city zoning and conditional use permit requirements. The surrounding proposed site, the surroundings of the proposed site are all practically university-wide facilities, few residential areas, but also associated with the university sorority road, engineering road in the south. And all of them, you know, are R3, are zoned R3 as well. In our review, we assessed that all requirements for conditional use were met. We reviewed ingress and egress, adequate off-street parking, off-site impact. I mean, all these things are, you know, relative to the cemetery use already, won't really be that exaggerated with this columbarium. So as far as public comment goes, we did not receive any objections or questions regarding this. It was posted and sent to the property owners within 300 feet of the cemetery. So our recommendation is that this body approve the conditional use permit for the columbarium within the Green Hill Cemetery, subject to staff conditions that accommodate all conditional uses, and those can be found in your packet, and those are procedural as far as if the use stops for 6 months, then the conditional use is removed, and things like that. Glad to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from commission members?
I have a couple. On the project location and on the conceptual site plan. It looks pretty simple, but are there any proposed accesses off of 19th Street? Or is it gonna still remain on the main entrance to the cemetery west side?
Yes, Commissioner Schneider, no additional access is proposed off of 19.
Second question, I think this is probably the only other one I have on the cover letter. Yeah, are there more pages? It just kind of ends at item E and there's no signature of who submitted it or like a conclusion or anything like that. I mean, it looks incomplete.
I would have to, Chairman or Commissioner Schneider, I would have to look at that, but essentially the cover letter does address all of the conditional use requirements. It is complete. I mean, we wrote it, the city wrote it. Essentially, we did this application. So if a page or two was not included, it's included in your staff report as far as the answers to the requirements for conditional use.
Okay, all right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions for staff? Are there any public comments out there regarding this? Seeing none, any final questions? No? Okay. Is there a motion?
Oh, when you take this from my left.
So I move to approve the conditional use permit for the establishment of a columbarium in the city-owned and operated Green Hills Cemetery within 403 multifamily residential building district located at 455 North 15th Street, Laramie, Wyoming, 82072, based on findings of fact and conclusions of law and subject to all staff's recommended conditions.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Jay, you gotta be a little quicker.
Slowly.
Discussions from commission members on this? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Dixon,
Aye.
Matamore,
Aye.
O'Toole,
Aye.
Pursuit,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
and Moody.
Aye.
That is 6 yeses and 0 no.
Okay, motion approved on CP 23-10. Next item of business is Laramie Chamber Business Alliance's historical signage request at 2208 Grand Avenue. Hello.
Yes, Chairman Moody and members of the commission. Today, we're presenting the LCBA's request to preserve the historical signage of the property located at 2208 Grand Avenue. Property originally was the Phillips 66 gas station, built in 1964, and serving a notable piece of architecture along Grand Avenue. The LCBA, in their upcoming redevelopment of the site, aims to preserve this unique mid-20th century architecture of the gas station, especially the iconic triangular canopy and truss signage, the pole sign, or we'll call it the truss sign that comes out of that canopy there. So per city code, signs of historical or cultural significance can be exempted from other sign regulations, in this case, what may be considered a pole sign. We are in alignment with the letter that LCBA requested. We believe that the truss sign, as it were, as part of the canopy, constitutes a significant part of the historic architecture of the site. So we are on board with the request. Of course, this request isn't part of the site plan, which will come through our office as well. It's just going to be supplemental to that. If the site plan had come in without this process, then we would have most likely made this as a comment that this is a pole sign and has to be either a variance or exempted in some way. So this is a proactive measure that LCBA is taking for that. We did see public comment, did not receive any. And hence we're recommending approval of LCBA's request to preserve the historical signage of 2208 Grand, with the stipulation that the existing architectural features of the site are maintained. Essentially, that means we want the canopy, we want the whole structure around that truss sign to remain. We don't want the canopy to go away and just that sign really turning into a pole sign without anything around it that's supporting it. So that is the recommendation we have. Oh, and I'm glad to take any questions.
Okay, questions for Philip? So Phil, is the truss attached to the overhang, basically?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so then the truss will be there. And then the sign will go away and be where the facility sign is.
Yeah, it would be the LCBA sign in there now.
Okay. All right. All right, no other questions? Are there any comments, public comments on this? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move,
Sylvie?
Sylvia, go ahead, take it away. You mean,
You're muted, Sylvie.
I move to approve the recommendation to preserve the historical signage at 2208 Grand Avenue with the condition that the current architectural elements on the site be preserved in tandem.
second,
Second from Tom. Any further discussion between us? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Dixon,
Aye.
Matamore,
aye,
O'Toole,
Aye.
Priscilla,
Aye.
Schneider is recused, and Moody.
Aye.
That is 5 yeses, 0 no, and 1 recused.
Okay, motion to approve the recommendation. Approved, very good. The next item of business is conditional use permit -23-07 at 408 Grant Street. It's equipment sales business. Hello, yeah, you're just all over the place.
Yes, we're on a roll this evening, Mr. Chairman. So this is an interesting proposal here, I must say, in light of recent developments. I'm not going to go through the entire staff report because a couple of reasons. A violation has been recently identified for illegal placement of shipping containers on this site in violation of the Laramie Municipal Code. The containers, though permitted, do not comply with required standards set for the B2 zoning district. So the applicant's allowed to have them, but they need to be included in the site plan process, which requires engineered foundations, screening, and so forth. And that's, in the spirit of not having shipping containers just willy-nilly all over town. So with that being said, a violation has been sent today. So the recommended motion initially for this item was to approve conditionally. However, I strongly advise the planning commission to postpone this item. You could deny it as well, but I think I have not been able to speak with the applicant. I've sent correspondence today, but have not heard from him. So our recommendation is changed to postponing this item until this situation is remedied and staff can reevaluate.
Until the violation is addressed.
This is addressed. I don't think.
In this, whatever the violation is, will you see a new site plan that addresses those items and is taken care of through the site plan process?
Yes, Commissioner Schneider, we would need to see that. I mean, the applicant is always open to submitting something that does not comply with the understanding that staff would recommend denial of it. But yes, so we anticipate a new site plan with complying structures.
It's kind of a restart.
Yes.
Tom?
Mr. Chair, will the business owner be able to operate, or does the city anticipate any serious action, injunctions or anything like that?
Commissioner Matamore, that is a good question. This applicant has prior history with violations. So at present time, we're going through our process, which is sending 3 letters before turning it over to the city attorney's office. We probably will go that route. We probably will, because we've given that time period that's allotted to all people, all businesses that receive a violation from the city. So you get the 3 letters, which essentially is 70 days to remedy or be in contact with us about the violation. After that, we do turn it over to the city attorney's office for their process, so we will probably do that in this case.
So Philip, some of the design drawings that were provided, you get the feeling that, it's like buildings that they're putting in, but what you're seeing is storage containers instead? Is there,
Chairman Moody, there is a building on site that's gonna be basically, it's gonna stay there, but it's just gonna be redone, the outside of it. So there's a building on site, but they'll have to get a building permit to align that with the site plan application, building elevations, drawings that they submit. The shipping containers are in addition to that, so we're not sure what's in those, if they're part of the business.
that'll come out of the wash of the violation.
So
Tom?
I'll make a motion.
Can I ask one more
Oh,
question?
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I've got a question, and actually he just walked in. The steward, he's stamps on it. I just had a question, I was looking through the notes on this, and he's recommending that you, like, there's, some of the notes indicate that you're expecting geotech fabric for all the improvements here, is that correct?
That may have been a standard note that wouldn't apply.
It was on all of the notes.
No, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the case up, yeah, disregard that, yeah.
Okay, and then that's the only question I have for you, so get on me.
Okay,
But I do, Ryan, I have that question for you. Philip recommended that we postpone it. Is that a procedural motion that we can make, or do we need to table it and then pull up from the table at subsequent meetings?
So we discussed this with the chair earlier. So you will need a main motion on the floor, which is either to approve or deny as it is. And then you can postpone to a date certain or until their process completes, to bring something back forward.
Okay, so you're the applicant.
I'm the engineer on that.
Okay, so this is the,
He is en route, he was a little uninformed of exactly where he needed to be. So anyways, but he was gonna be here, but I wasn't sure of the status of that, we were gonna to delay or, yeah, revisit, table it, so he was here to.
are there any more comments for the representative of the applicant?
The applicant is on the way.
He is, yeah,
I'd like to see if we can postpone this to another, later in the agenda, and listen to the applicant. What do you think? How can we do that?
In that circumstance, you could table it and then pick it up later in the meeting.
Okay, so call a table.
All right, I move we table this, conditional use permit till later in the meeting.
There's a second? Second from Donald. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those not, nay? Okay, so we'll come
Hang
back
on.
to this at the end of the meeting.
thank you.
All right. Next item of business, CUP -23 -9, 745 Plaza Court, barber shop at 720. 7220 barber shop, is that? Okay. Philip,
Yes, Chairman, members of the commission. This conditional use permit is for the establishment of a barber shop at 745 Plaza Court, which falls within a limited manufacturing zoning district. This request aligns with Laramie Municipal Code, allowing personal services in the LM zone, which is a recent development. As you may remember, we went through the process of adding this use into the LM zoning district as a conditional use. The proposed use required no external modifications. except for a sign as well as, the barber shop pole as well is there. But most of the changes were internal there. So the area surrounding 745 Plaza Court is characterized by a mix of uses under the B1 and limited manufacturing zoning districts, including office buildings, contractor storage, and vacant, and a vacant lot to the south. We feel this diverse usage pattern supports the introduction of this type of business in that area. We reviewed it as we do any conditional use permit, whether it has adequate ingress and egress, what the offsite impacts would be, adequate refuse and utility services, sufficient screening and buffering and compliance with signage requirements. We found as staff that the proposed barber shop meets those necessary criteria, ensuring compatibility in that LM zone with a minimal impact on the surrounding area. Letters were sent out to folks within 300 feet of that property, and no major concerns or no concerns at all were received. So based on this analysis and positive findings, staff recommends approval of conditional use. I'll also, Chairman, let you know that we do have the applicant and his representative here if they'd like to share anything as well, but I can take questions on it.
Any questions from commission on the bill? Seeing none, the applicant want to make any comments? Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, is there a motion? Oh, wait, are there any public comments regarding this conditional use permit? Seeing none?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve a conditional use permit for the establishment of a barber shop within an LM limited manufacturing zoning district located at 745 Plaza Court, Laramie, Wyoming, 82072, based on findings of fact and conclusions of law and subject to all staff's recommended conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Jay. Any further discussion amongst commissioners on this motion? Okay, vote please. Roll call.
Dixon,
Aye.
Matamore,
Aye.
O'Toole,
Aye.
Priscilla,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
and Moody.
Aye.
That is 6 yeses and 0 nos.
Motion approves. Thank you. Good luck with the barber shop. Thank you. You bet. Okay, the last order of business, well, actually not, second last, come back, is Z-23-06 Cornerstone Apartment Zoning Amendment.
Chair Commission, today I have before you a rezoning of a city-owned parcel at the corner of Beach and Boulder Street. This parcel is just one single parcel of approximately 14.5 acres. This amendment originally came up with a proposed affordable housing complex in that area. The affordable housing complex had already gone to the council for review. And that they stated report. But generally, the city council did view this as a favorable addition to the community. Through this process, it was decided that they would go through a rezoning first. That parcel contains a fairly large and significant detention pond. However, there is an area of that parcel that does not contain the detention pond and do not affect the use of that detention pond. And so the affordable housing complex was hoping to build partially on that lot and a lot below it. Currently, that lot is zoned O, which is a holding district. It's essentially an area that can be held until the area is more compatible for development. Which would mean that there's fairly limited fairly limited uses that can actually occur on that site. The B1 designation is a designation you find throughout the Turner Tract. It's a fairly prominent one, and certainly one that is similar to or the same as properties that surround the actual parcel. As you can see, there have been comments from concerned citizens in the area. During this process, we obviously sent out online letters to property owners within 300 feet of the parcel. And through that process, we get 2 written comments. I have talked to numerous other people regarding this amendment. The future land use plan does designate this area as either suburban commercial or a certain area. The future land use plan designates this area as both suburban commercial and park and open space. That mimics what the Turner Tract plan does as well. But ultimately, we believe that B1 designation, as this is currently one parcel, is a better way to move forward. Additionally, I just want to add that because this is a city-owned property, the city generally does not sell property for development outside of the city interest. So depending on whatever the council goals are or our planning documents suggest, generally do not just sell it. It does have to go through a public process before sale.
Open for questions?
Open for questions.
Okay, commissioners, questions for Joseph?
I do have a couple of questions, and I think it's been brought up in a couple of these questions, and I looked through some of the storm drainage documents that I think it's the South Mountain Drainage Master Plan. That's a 4.38 foot detention pond, which is pretty integral to the stormwater system. I mean, that's not ever planned to go away. Is it because of development? Or zoning rather, because of zoning change?
So I can't say whether or not the engineering plans on getting rid of that detention pond. I can tell you at the moment, they're not planning on it because it would take significant engineering or capacity elsewhere to accommodate that the detention that occurs there. This plan doesn't, or the plan that was submitted originally, but then was retracted, was not going to build within the envelope of the detention pond, and engineering did not believe that it would actually affect the detention pond's effectiveness. Ultimately, during the design phase during their engineering design reports that would be submitted during their site plan, it would have to prove that there would be capacity for stormwater still in that location.
Okay, good enough. Second question. In the letter from and Michelle Bacon in bold that says, and it's referencing the land use definition of the I'm not sure. But in bold, it says land that will remain as green space, pathways, trails, and other areas that are generally developed per the zoning code of O. Does it specifically dictate that that land will remain as green space? And in the original plat or any other documentation, was there a legal document that held that as green space, pathways, trails, or other areas for generally or to remain undeveloped?
So within the zoning district, you can use it for things other than parks and open spaces. Generally, there are conditional uses, though. I don't believe that there's anything specifically permitted in that zoning district. Like I said, it's a holding district for a time when the city decides a more concrete way forward for development in that area. However, as far as legally binding documents, I guess generally within the state of Wyoming, planning documents are a recommendation.
Right.
Well, they're not legally binding. Code is legally binding, and then planning documents, we, in our office, generally, follow.
Right, I guess what I'm fishing for is like on a plat, that there was never a plat file that would like hatch out this, like sometimes we do this floodway development is a good example, like you can't build in the floodway. We don't have, we being the city or the county having a recorded document as a plat that says nothing will ever be developed on this, is there?
Correct. No, there's nothing in the class. That occurred, okay, specifically undeveloped.
I think that's all the questions I.
I don't know.
So I have a related question, and that is, I had never seen the Turner Tract area plan until today. And so that looks like a good document, and I checked to make sure, as the Lakens had said, that that quote was accurate, and it is accurate. Does that document, the Turner Tract area plan, create an impetus to honor? Is that something, I mean, how much weight does that carry?
Within our office, we do try to follow the plans as closely as possible. While this zoning does change the zoning, it doesn't necessarily change the use that would occur there. We would generally review projects based on all applicable planning documents, and make a decision on approval or denial accordingly. And so we, in any future planning that would occur there, any future site plans or additional uses that would come up, we would review it according to both the Turner Tract plan and the plan, any other applicable plans.
But I guess I can see how, both people wrote letters, the Bacons and the other folks, how easy they would be, that it seems to open the door to development that they thought was not going to happen. Would it be possible, I mean, the suggestion is to rezone the 7 acres rather than 14.5 acres. And I assume the 14.5 acres include the retention pond, Is that correct?
Correct.
So why would you not do that for the 7 acres rather than the whole thing? Because those maps in the Turner Tract area plan do show that there's green space on all of the maps. And this seems to be moving away from that, and it's creating some unease.
So that is one way to go about it, is to either do a minor land division or lot line adjustment in order to incorporate just that area. It was not the way that was chosen in this specific case. Again, this was submitted by Cornerstone Development originally, and the city took it on after that, after they withdrew. However, I would say that could possibly go through fairly easily. Would be just dividing it or changing the lot line so that the developable area does not include the envelope of the detention pond. That being said, it would still be open, it would still be O designated, which is not necessarily open space. And there are potential uses, but there is a,
Tom, what do you think? No. Tom?
Have you got, I thought Cornerstone had pulled out development there, so are they still interested in that? I mean, are we zoning on the basis of zoning, they will come? Or, you know, have we got somebody there who's actually interested in doing something?
so, correct, Cornerstone, withdrew because they did not get funding from the WCDA. Ultimately, we're rezoning it because it does, you know, align with city goals for the development of that parcel. Even within this runner's track plan, it does show the area that they were planning on developing as multifamily. And so kind of moving forward with that. Yes, the rezoning does incorporate areas that do not aren't specifically addressed in the same way in the shared drive plans, but yes, we are recommending the rezoning because it matches the plans that we've already gone through with it.
Right, thank you.
Any other?
I've got more questions. Joseph, so is looking at the immediate being the 3 to 6 month time frame, is there any benefit to the city or cost to the city for not doing this?
No,
Okay, so I'll put my 2 cents in. So, so we've established that you have a detention pond and a drainage in there. When you look at the Turner Track map, there was a little square in the actual southwest corner of this parcel. That's about 5 acres in size. That was recommended to be mixed residential or something like that. And then the remainder of the 14-acre parcel was designated as open space, as talked about by the owners that were not supportive of this. I think that's a great idea. I mean, when you look at the property, that southwest corner and being adjacent, the property that's adjacent to B1 to the south, looks like that's the property portion of this 14-acre parcel to multi-family residence and to honor the open space designation of the Turn Track plan in recognition that the whole thing looks like a detention pond. And if so, I think 7 acres is probably overstated per sort of to some initial calculations. What I'd like to see is just like in Laramie, where we were doing the rezoning, then coming back and trying to do the continued use permit. You know, we asked the private developer to recognize undevelopable portions of the property. And I think the city should do the same thing on this property. You say, okay, engineering department, you map out your 4 acres of detention pond and any stormwater buffer, you know, whatever is in addition to where that standing water is. And that the city say, this is the land that is dedicated to stormwater drainage. And then you define your undevelopable area, so any developer that comes in knows exactly what portion of this parcel is available for development. And at the zoning, you don't zone your stormwater detention ponds B1. You zone it, you leave it O, or maybe you have another zoning designation that deals with detention ponds and stormwater features. So I'm very much in. I'd like more information from the city on this, and in addition to what is the logic? Or what is the value of keeping what would amount to like the eastern half of this property in open space? You know, in that either counters or supports what the original Turner Tract designation of that was. And the city can make a good argument that, boy, we really think that we can do some B1 sneaking along the south side of that property. And that we don't need open space relative to other, you know, the developments to the south and developments to the north, you know, sort of provide some justification to this body that open space is not necessary. And what the real development area is on this, not rezone the whole thing. B1.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Tom.
just fishing here, can we move to, rather than just out and out deny it, can we move to, either postpone this or send it back to the city for more definition?
Yeah, I think that the approach would be that we would have a motion, let's say to approve, you know, get it in the mix. And then talk about what additional information we want as a body. And then have a motion to postpone that identifies what that additional information is and what the city timeline might be for getting that information in this body and then coming up with a date at which we would reconsider a motion to approve in consideration of the additional information.
Ryan, is that the way to do it? In your Robert's rules here.
Yeah.
And a question is, within that motion to approve, if we look at the additional information and we say, gee, we really don't think that it's necessary to rezone all 14 acres. Can we, in that approval process, change the language to say, you know, based on the zone of non-developmental and what area, calculated area of developable property there is, that number would then be in the language of the approval as opposed to 14 acres for the rezoning? Convoluted question.
I believe you can. I think it would. Some of the issues with that will be kind of logistics on our end of, you know, mapping out, having an accurate map of what is B1 and what is not, where that delineating line would be. You know, off the top of my head, you know, we may be able to get the engineer design reports for the detention pond, and don't have to say it would be anything outside of the envelope of that, but that would be something that I would have to go in with engineering on to see if those documents are even available.
Giving us enough detail to actually change the motion specifically to the rezoning boundaries.
All right, so just to make sure we do this the right way. We'd move to approve, and then there would be an amendment to the motion.
Apparently, we don't have to do amendments. We can just discuss the things that we want for additional information, and that's provided in the motion to postpone.
So
So
the motion to postpone doesn't need to be an amendment.
No.
All right,
we just need to give the city direction,
Yeah.
enough direction within that postponement. Derek, did you have a question?
Yeah, just for clarity, what I'm hearing from the commission is that maybe just the detention area is saying general generic stormwater structure area. You're not, that part is what's causing the consternation and rezoning. I mean,
And the value of open space. I mean, I don't think that was really addressed in the staff report. as to, hey, do we not need open space in this area? Because that was sort of the original intent in the Turner Track plan, was keeping it open space.
Cause if you don't mind, I think what I'm just trying to like help you maybe formulate something so that you get good information if you were to go down the road of postponement, which you can do that. As Joseph mentioned, I mean, I think we could come back with a different area to consider. I'm gonna say reduced area, B1 area. And then the purpose of my question was this, okay, so open space being a component of the concern, we can bring back the rest of the information. I mean, with Cornerstone, for instance, when we were working on that, which kind of, spurred this conversation along, that they were in conceptual, what you saw in the report, conceptual layout. I mean, the open space component was pathways and trails, making the connections over that would come in a, formal site plan process. But as mentioned, it's only found in our plans, right? And so it's like, we're trying to figure out what do you want related to that that's not in the plan? I'm just trying to make sure we get you the right information, and that's what I'm, on that piece now, I'm not completely clear.
Don? So let me put this in Irish terms. Pretty simple. When you look at the Turner track document, it doesn't show a detention pond. I was not even aware there's a detention pond there or a retention pond. So I guess I would like to know, A, where the detention pond is, and B, where the open space is supposed to be, and C, where you think the business development could be done, and just partition it out into those three areas.
Mr. Chair, Sylvia's got her hand.
Sylvie?
Oh, thank you. Well, I see green open space on that Turner Track map, and to me, that indicates a specific intent for that land use. So I do not want to chisel away at any open space.
Okay. And we'll just work that into, what's provided, during the postponement information that comes back for considering a motion of approval. We'll have a discussion. Let's see.
Well, I'm going ahead.
Wait a second.
We still haven't done time for public comment yet.
Yes.
Oh, wait.
Chair, just one more thing, just thinking about your motion. I would keep your motion if you're gonna recommend postponement fairly generic to allow us some flexibility to come back with some options for you then, if that's, to at least have a conversation about that versus dictating 7.3 acres or something like that. I mean, at this point, let us,
So we can modify the staff recommendation motion.
you would do that maybe at a future meeting, maybe. But what I would just say is, if you're gonna postponing it and allowing it at a time when staff can bring back the appropriate information as described in your postponement reasoning. So,
Right, well, that would be in in the postponement language, is say postpone until such and such a date.
correct.
Or,
Yeah, I would probably just, if we can be flexible in the day, because I don't know how long some of this might
Right.
take us, right? If it takes us.
but that wouldn't be in the original motion to approve.
Correct, yeah, but I would just leave the motion as is, because the original motion will come back at a future meeting.
Right.
And you'll either deny, modify it at that point, or approve it as maybe it was originally proposed.
Well,
but
we'll
then-
start with the motion that's provided in the staff recommendation.
Correct, yeah.
No,
I think
I
you
understand.
didn't need to change the acreage or try to figure
No,
that out.
no, I
I
thought
would say
we
it would be worth.
we understand it, and I just think that the city should apply the same logic that we did to Laradus, to property when we find non-developable areas. In the board, but anyway. So, is there any public comment on this, side? Seeing none, then we will move for a motion, and the motioner just read from the
I move to recommend the city council approve an amendment to the city of Laramie's official zoning map, rezoning approximately 14.5 acre property on the southeast corner of Beach Street and Boulder Drive from O District to Limited Business District B1, according to the findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Is there a second? I thought we were going to postpone this. No, but that just gets the motion
On the
open for discussion. Is there a second for,
Oh, yeah, I'll second.
well, a second from Jay? Okay, so now we'll discuss amongst ourselves what we think about this thing, and if we want to get more information and postpone, we'll vote on that, and if not, then we'll vote on the motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd really like to see the staff take this back and in light of our discussion, redo this. I really feel to me, the primary concern is the drainage pond. There are structures in there. There's an inlet and then there's an outlet dam. And I just am trepidatious about zoning a drainage pond as anything other than that. I mean, it's just, with all the worries we have about stormwater and flooding, I think.
Yeah.
I would like, to me, that whole 14 acre site looks like a big,
It looks like a big detention pond.
it looks like a big.
Exactly, and then so I would like the engineering department to put
Limit.
lines on that drainage, saying this is stormwater for 100-year flood, or for whatever that structure was originally designed for, or what the future design with climate change might be from the engineering department. They got a chance to recalibrate what their detention pond needs are at that particular location. And the engineering department puts lines on the map. And then a second question?
The second question I would have would be, and I may even have to go to city legal, just how definitive is the original Turner tract plan on open space? Just how,
Yeah, there.
where,
You don't need legal.
We don't need-
You got me.
Yeah.
I'll just answer right now. It's a guiding document. There's no prescriptive requirement. Planning commission can go against a plan, council can go against a plan. You've all done it before, you'd probably do it again. No, I mean, it's a guiding document. And I think Joseph hit it on the nail. When we review the plans through the processes that we have in place, is when we have that opportunity to require it. Sometimes we don't get to require it because we don't have the opportunity to review it through our planning processes, unfortunately. And so, that's our obligation as staff, and that's what we do. Whether it's a city project or not, we try to do what we can under the powers that we have to protect, whether it's open space or drainage or things like that.
So if the staff has, as a project comes up, the ability to integrate open space and public walks and so forth into that development, it will occur at the time of the proposed development. Is sort of what would happen in the future?
It just depends upon the process. I mean, in this specific case, as Joseph mentioned, when we were reviewing the cornerstone, I mean, like I said, conceptual plan, some squares on a property, and it wasn't that detailed. That was one of the conversations we had internally with them, is when you get to the site plan process, so that's a process that we have at the city for requirement. And in this case, the conditional use process, because B1 properties require multifamily to go through the conditional use process. We talked to them about how are you going to incorporate the pathways and the open space component into this plan, because it's all one big piece of property, right? And that would have been like in this case, you all would have actually seen this one, but it's not coming forward for right now.
So I guess what we would ask city staff to do, the planning staff, is I think to articulate exactly what the intent of the public space, the open space in the Turner Track thing was, and what the O designation is, and the process by which public space and open space, whatever gets integrated into any modification of that, of zoning of that. You just tell us how it maps out, how it happens, and have, you know, a staff report narrative that explains to us why we're sort of watching away the open space part of the Turner Track and the process of accommodating public.
And Commissioner, I think I want to just say one thing, which is, this is good conversation because this helps the understanding of the process that, like, you just mentioned washing away the open space. I mean, it's noted B1 permits open space. Zoning doesn't wash away anything, but understanding the development process maybe a little bit better through these questions and through this postponement is good for the commission. So we can explain it, because sometimes we don't, you know, we can only come up with so many answers to questions we don't know yet. Which is what we'll do in a follow-up report, and we can hopefully provide that. I think also I would mention, similar to with Laradice, though, I would just mention that was going through a platting process, which is very different, where in the platting process, lots were being created and there was some designation, ability to designate some things. So I think we can help maybe explain a little bit of that through some additional information through postponement. That's good. These things are okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
feel free to
So-
elaborate
yes.
on.
And it's why I asked the
on the staff
questions.
report, so to
Yeah,
speak.
for sure.
Chair, can I make a question, a request, actually, because I know the process really well. And what we see here is not even close to what comes through in a site plan. I think it would be beneficial.
There's no project.
Well, no, but even still, like through the site plan process of what Derek's talking about, I think it would be very beneficial for this commission to have an example presented of what a site plan really does with all of the engineering reports, the drain, and not that you have to go into it for detail, but just to demonstrate what you guys look at, what engineering looks at, and how it relates to a project when, say, this gets rezoned, when a project comes in, all of that stuff has to be identified, discussed, and demonstrated how those impacts are gonna be made. And we, as the commission, we don't always get to see all of this.
Chair, Commissioner, I think that's not a bad idea. At some point, we could do just a work session style, walk you through what we see on our end related to a site plan, which doesn't come before this body. The closest you get to something like that is a conditional use, but even then, it's pared down. It's the detail isn't there. As Member Schneider notes, you know, the high level engineering, all the traffic study and the 150-page traffic study is not presented to you because a lot of times you don't necessarily need that much information to make a good educated decision. And that's why we prepare our staff reports, try to summarize some of that, give you guidance. But I think that's not a bad idea, you know, show you what we're seeing on our side of things in terms of when we see a submittal, like maybe in this case, for instance, what we would have saw.
Okay. Donald?
But there's kind of a corollary here, and that is, so the only map we had to go on was a map which showed that, but it was 15 acres, all marked as open space. Right?
Remember, you need to make sure you read the staff report. The O zone is not open space.
Understood,
So no, that's incorrect.
but that map was taken directly from the Turner Tract development plan.
Yeah, that map is, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's, So we can't go by that.
Yeah, there wasn't a existing planning zoning map provided in the statute.
The zone, yeah, zoning in the Turner tract plan, there's not two maps that are the same. Yes.
So is there, what is those, ozone district allowed uses? How is it not fulfilling the city's desire for that 14-acre plat? Because there's, you know, you can have community centers, gardens, you can have hospice and conditional use, you can have group homes in the conditional use, you can have dwellings, live and work, professional office complex. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of things that are allowed in O and the conditions. So what is not being accomplished by this zoning designation that the city really has a real hot desire?
So I would say it's two really brief items. The first item being that if you look at what the ozone is intended for, specifically says the O district is designated to function as a holding zone for future planning and development of agricultural lands without the preference for any specific urban use. The reason why there's uses allowed within the O zone is purely a legal reason. You can't have a zoning district that doesn't allow for some sort of use. You can't completely restrict somebody's property by zoning it O, for instance, and say that there's nothing allowed in it. So you put uses which are generic and fairly benign, I'm just gonna say pretty limited, to provide some uses. It's not overly restrictive. That's why there's kind of a breadth of uses, not just like two. So it's not, doesn't say like you can only put a single family home and a park. That'd be pretty restrictive, and I think you would probably win a long-term discussion in the court of law that that was, you know, not restrictive to the property. But the reason number two is that the Turner tract plan does call for that property to be zoned multifamily. Not the whole thing, we're hearing that discussion. And the B.
Well, part of it, just that southwest corner, that southwest corner.
And the B1 zone allows for multifamily development. And so because the city owns that property and we 100% control everything that's going on there, zoning just the whole property was a very simple and it's very defined. We know exactly what we're zoning. And so it's meeting the long-term goal of the Turner tract plan, which is allowing for future use and development of that area. What the exact defined area, we don't know that. I can't even tell you, we can't tell you that. We don't know yet. We don't have a proposal, we don't know. But we're allowing that flexibility so we can get a future plan and look at it.
So the southwest corner has 5 acres designated for multifamily dwellings in that parcel. In the Turner tract plan, it does, it's got a little square around it. And the rest is open space, so that's great. I think that's perfect for kind of the physicality of that site. And so are you telling me that the things that the city populated in the O zone, because you just had to have something there, you couldn't say you can't do anything. The city's really not happy with that list of permitted uses or conditional use permits, and the city wants to fine tune the things that could happen by via B1 in the rest of that, in the entire property. That you're just not really, this doesn't have a whole lot of meaning as to these things that are listed.
I would say that our hope is that we never have some property in the city.
Why?
It's a holding zone. We don't want to.
Well, you're calling it a holding zone, but you're giving a bunch of potential use.
Honestly, because we legally have to.
We cannot have a zoning district that has no permitted uses within it. Period.
Okay, I get it.
That's-
I get you have to populate it with something. I'm just saying, what populate it? Does it still make, do these things make sense as land uses for this particular property outside of the 5 acres in the southwest corner that was designated and makes perfect sense in my mind for multifamily development? So,
Chair, and we could go through the list. I mean, you know, with kind of where the direction of this conversation has gone is that, let's say only a portion of this property is rezoned. I mean, the remaining property will remain zoned. So I mean, any of those uses in theory could go into the detention pond. Now, is that really what's? Absolutely not. It's not.
all I'm doing is trying to get narrative from the city to say, why do we want this entire parcel B1?
Yeah. And we will bring back the information to have a conversation about that or something modified. And that's okay. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, yeah.
I'm extremely happy that I thought I was a Catholic, because these theological discussions are just take me back to my childhood. Let me ask you this. Do we have a zoning for green space?
Yeah.
Wow, we don't have a zoning for green space? That's part of the problem.
Chair commissions,
Speaking theologically,
it's actually really common to not. Most places don't zone for open space. Okay.
I got a question. How many zoning categories do not allow open space or green space?
I think it's 0. I think every zone allows for open space, because we never want to preclude it.
Are there any other instances where like B1 or business districts have large detention ponds in them or residential areas or zoning districts rather have large detention areas?
Yes, so like, oh, we never specifically zone a detention pond something different than usually the surrounding zone. It's R1 zoned, R3 zoned, B1 zone, whatever usually that area is developed as, we zone that detention area of the same zoning for continuity of zoning.
I'm just gonna keep going. I feel like I'm a judge here on trial.
I'm not on trial. I don't.
Are these detention ponds, are they typically deeded to the city?
Through the planning process.
Through the
yeah.
planning process?
The planning process, they're set aside for that purpose. When you submit a plat, they submit the detention ponds with the plat. And it pretty much sets it in stone.
Right, and I'm kind of angling towards the final.
Go ahead, I know where it's going.
But I think what maybe this commission would like to see, and maybe I'm stepping over myself, but is the potential to rezone that one section, but in addition to that, set aside that detention pond as a city of Laramie individual parcel that remains the city's parcel. If that makes sense, because if the whole thing's ruled, rather zone, ruled resident or business one, and a developer wants to develop something, granted, there is a site plan process, but they have the, let's say, ownership of that entire parcel versus just the parcel that they are going to develop on. Does that make sense?
Chair, commission, I mean, the reason no subdivision process or anything is occurring right now is because we don't know what that exact space would be. We were simply going through the rezoning process to set that up. Now, with like the Cornerstone property, boundary line adjustments were gonna be used to separate the parcel. And we were gonna retain ownership of the, I'm gonna say, the detention area, let's just say generically. Whatever that is, right? But I mean, that, we were not, the whole property, we weren't gonna sell to somebody. But
In that process or that replanning, would that come again before the commission here to look at that, or would that just have been done through an administrative process?
we had administratively, we could have done it, so it would have, but we would have basically carved off what they needed for their area and what kind of that generic site plan that you saw, and the rest would have been retained by the city.
City property, just
Yeah.
is.
Correct.
Any other questions to entertain? So, we're still in the motion to approve category. So we're talking about postponement.
Yes. Do I have to do that? It's, gotta make the motion?
Well, and you have to be ready to say what you're asking the city to provide to extend the time for the city to provide certain information, which would be, you know, a map of non-developable area would be one. And then kind of wrap our head around the staff report, the staff report that dealt with process and.
Well, I've only got the one specific thing that I would like to answer, but I suggest that someone else make that postponement motion. So that there's more definition to the staff. I don't want to just generically say, Derek, come back with more stuff.
I'm kind of a little bit conflicted because I mean, I've done the other side of this many times on the site plan side and the administrative processes that we never get to see. And the concerns that we're expressing are that it's not going to be open space anymore, but sooner or later, lots get developed lots for the most part, unless they are specifically set aside for park, and maybe even when they are set aside for park, they come back and they're developed as something else. But I mean, I don't necessarily see problem with what the city's trying to do, knowing that in the future, if they're gonna split it off, and they're gonna make all of maybe we won't ever see them as the commission, but the requests and the items that most of us have raised concerns about would be addressed through either the site plan process, the lot split process, or whatever the other administrative processes that we have.
So just go with the one concern and say, show us the non-developable.
I mean, I think that, but even still, through the site plan process, engineering is not gonna let them develop in that detention pond.
Well,
Right, and that is really the high water line of that detention pond is gonna define what's developable or not. Really.
right, but we're looking at calling all this 14 acres B1,
Right.
and I don't think that's correct. And so we need to find out what portions of it and what of that 14 acres is not in play.
Okay,
And-
I don't,
and it-
I don't know if
I honestly
disagree, but I think the concern or what you're saying is we should have a set aside zoning district for that green space detention pond. Or should it be something else? I mean, if we leave it, like Derek was saying, there's still many permitted uses there. They can still happen, and but they're not ever gonna be able to happen because they're in the middle of detention. Right? Even though they might be permitted, right? The site plan process would not allow that necessarily to happen. And even if it was zoned as if the city got a proposal to do development in the middle of the detention pond, it would probably not allow. But it would still be permitted. Somebody could still submit a site plan to say, hey, we want to build a house as a bottom of this thing, if it were permitted. If it stayed in O.
Well, we can request information
Right.
and consider it. And it either gets integrated or not into how we vote on the approval,
Yeah.
once we talk, but we have more information in front of us to make a decision.
Right, I don't disagree with
Right. So how do we word this? For some about ready to call a question.
I'll put a motion out there, so, I put a motion to postpone, consideration of Z 23 06. To provide the time necessary for the city to provide a map that shows the non-developable area of the parcel, due to the stormwater detention facility on this parcel.
And I would add to that, if I may, the area that they see most suitable for development.
And the area most suitable for development, so. And the question would be how far to extend this postponement time-wise. Some date has to be established there.
Sure, I mean, I think we probably, let's not do that next meeting, but it's the first meeting in March.
That would be the 11th. Or the 25th after that.
Yeah, maybe just make it the 25th of March, just, and it's, I mean, like we said, this is an interesting issue for us, it's just something we're completing. We had it before us, we had prepared everything, we've done our reviews, so, yeah, if let's just make it that date, and that'll work for people.
Well, okay, so, and in addition to the map, would be a sort of modified staff report from planning that describes the process of consideration of open space, public space in the context of this parcel and how it works out in the site plan or administrative process. Just for our education and understanding that as to why, what the value of public space is that the Turner Tract recognized and is how it meshes with the Turner Tract plan. And that those two elements would be presented on the March 25th, 2024 commission meeting for consideration of the motion to approve. Is there a second on that postponement?
Second.
Second from Tom. Any further discussion? Commission members? Seeing none, I guess a roll call vote for the postponement.
Dixon,
Aye.
Mattermore,
Aye.
O'Toole,
Aye.
Priscilla,
Aye.
Schneider,
Nay.
and Moody.
Aye.
That's 5 yeses and 1 no.
And so postponement passes. And we're back into the original motion. We're done with the original motion. Okay.
For now.
Okay, so, on to the CUP that we postponed, is it a motion to bring back?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to bring CUP?
I would bring back, from the table, CUP 23 07 at 408 Pratt Street.
Is there a second from Jay? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed, say nay. Okay, we'll bring it back for consideration. So,
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I'll just briefly go over the presentation and our stance on it, since the applicant is now present. As mentioned, the original CUP is in place to establish an equipment sales business at 408 Grant Street. However, the recommendation that we were going to make this evening of approval with conditions had to be reevaluated, given a significant zoning violation that we came across on Friday afternoon at about 4 o'clock. That would have been, what day is that? 3 days ago, essentially. So we sent the applicant a letter and email this morning with that violation letter. So it really mixes the entire conditional use permit in front of you this evening, because shipping containers are permitted in the B1 zoning district. However, there are stipulations for them, which are not being met currently on the site, and certainly would need to be part of a conditional use process and then the subsequent site plan process, which obviously they are not. So that's essentially why we are recommending postponement of this item, so that we can, as quickly as possible from the applicant, get a new conditional use permit with what's going to be on the site. So with that, I would turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to hear from the applicant or have questions for me.
yeah, if there's no questions to Phil from us, if the applicant wants to get up and speak, state your name.
My name is John Paul Leskovich. And from what I understand, I have 3 containers on my site that they just noticed last Friday that have been there since last June. So I feel that this planning commission is not doing their job, because if they would be doing their job, I'd have known about this sooner, and there wouldn't be a postponement. I'd be able to move forward with getting my permits to restucco the building, put in my concrete in the front, all the landscaping that the city has asked of us. We've complied with, we've complied to everything. But it just seems, well, it just seems that the lack of communication from the city, there is no communication. I get an email every Thursday night, telling me that I have to do this or I have to do that. It's never in the beginning of the week. I didn't even know about the meeting tonight, what time it was. I knew February 12th, but nobody told me what time it was. That's why I wasn't here. The containers, they have all the material that's going to be used, or most of the material that's going to be used for the building. Once I get done, I expose material, the containers will be gone. If I'd have known that I was supposed to put them in a certain location, and the city does have a site plan, and it states what's going to be on the lot. The containers are not going to be on the lot. And in fact, there's going to be a lot of objects that are not going to be on the lot. The reason why we're doing this is to beautify that corner. I don't have much else to say, but I mean, I'd like to move forward. This process is just on and on and on, and I've complied to everything that the city's asked me to do. Now there's another issue. I don't feel that I should be postponed.
So all you have are building materials in.
That's all that's in them, is just building materials.
It's a temporary thing.
Yes, sir.
You have any more questions from the
Aye.
commission?
Not for the applicant, staff.
I have one
Yeah.
question just to clarify, and I think you've already stated it, but your intent for those Conex boxes or whatever it is, once they are empty, they're.
Yes, sir, they will be.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, just a point of clarification, have an email, we email, we try to correspond as best we can with applicants on projects and when they're gonna be heard, and I clearly sent an email to both, the applicant as well as his representative back on January 26th, stating exactly when the meeting was and what time. So I can provide that if needed, and then as far as the applicant's, statement that the shipping containers have been on site, we can't find anything, on Google Street View or our aerial, which, it really does go into 2020, unfortunately, but the boxes aren't on there. So if it was, there's no way of telling when they were placed there. We did not notice them. Maybe that was something we did not catch. I'm not sure, but on Street View and aerial, they're not there. So anyways, our stances remains the same about the shipping containers and postponing this item.
So would you be requiring pads and construction and, what sort of things would have to be done to the shipping containers to get them out of violation?
Yeah, so in order to have a permanent shipping container, yeah, it does need to be on an engineered foundation. It needs to be screened from public view. Those are the two biggest things. I mean, certainly there is, if they are, not, so there's a provision here in the section on shipping containers. It says placement of the shipping container for permanent or semi-permanent use exceeding 6 months shall require a building permit. So the applicant even stated himself, they've been there since last June. So if that is true, then a building permit still wasn't obtained and it hasn't been up to code. So, there you go on that. But does that answer your question as far as what we require through code for shipping containers to be on the site?
What is it, you have to be screened from view? I mean, what would he have to do?
Either landscaping or fence.
Okay, and if he was done with them in 6 months, then that wouldn't be necessary?
So there are exemptions, I will say, whether this, so it does say there's exceptions. Portable moving containers, moving pods placed on private property, through a minor temporary use shall not be regulated. Shipping containers, and this is the second one, shipping containers shall be permitted on a construction site provided there is an active building permit and placement is ancillary to the project on site. I just need to remind the commission too, that a building permit wasn't ever even obtained for this site in the first place. So therein lies another problem. Such shipping containers shall be removed within 30 days of completion of work associated with the building permit. Given there was never a building permit, this doesn't apply.
If I, Mr. Chair,
Tom?
if I may, he would have to obtain a building permit to do the work on the building, on the existing building, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And that was a item or that was an issue that came up when work was, when, a building inspector or somebody notified us that work was going on this building without a building permit. So hence here we are this evening, there was work being done without a building permit.
Can he get a building permit without without this condition?
No.
So he would need this to get a building permit. And if he got a building permit, then the storage, the connexes would become temporary storage for his construction materials. And he would be required to remove them before getting a CO.
Well, this is the conditional use again, so this through a site plan process, that's absolutely correct. Site
Yeah.
plan, building permit, yes, then this section applies. Planning staff haven't had enough time to evaluate whether or not really what to do with these shipping containers that have been on here for who knows how long. So we don't have a recommendation on that at this point. So I can't truly answer your question.
Is violation also dealing with the building permit or just the containers?
There's double fees associated with the building permit that the applicant had to pay. And he's already submitted the building permit. The same applied for the site plan. Double fees were associated with that. The site plan wasn't obtained, and then the same now with the conditional use. So.
Do you have
I'm just curious what this gentleman could do, because he's kind of stuck between a rock and hard place right now, and maybe it was on making. But I would like to see the property improved and a business continue to thrive there, but, is there any way we can require as this conditional use permit, these connexes be removed at the end of construction? And can we do that as part of the CUP?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's the direction we're heading is we need a new conditional use permit from the beginning. And we can add that as a condition that the shipping containers be removed.
But the commission can't add that as a condition
Oh.
on this CUP. You would have to submit an entirely new CUP.
I mean, you could, yes, you could do that. I just want to remind the commission of how we got to this position in the first place. I didn't go through the whole staff report. One of the conditions that we wanted to see on there was the removal of any remnants of a non-conforming wood lot that has been happening, behind the building. That was a condition. I mean, we could certainly add another condition. Again, as we're kind of shooting from the hip here.
Well, yeah, I remember this property from the urban renewal discussions and photographs, which is one of those properties. So, but I'd like to encourage people to improve the property.
But
Like I say, we're kind of stuck.
I mean, we can't approve something, there's an existing violation,
That's the problem.
but that would, I don't think, we should do that. If the city is put a violation. But to the degree that you can work through the conditions of the violation quickly and, flexibly and not jam them up so that we can approve the new conditional use permit. In the next meeting, I mean, is that possible?
So I'll say back to Commissioner Matamore's point of trying to find an avenue for the applicant to make this happen. I mean, that's what we originally came this evening to do, to recommend approval with the conditions that you can see. It is a possibility to add a condition of removal of the shipping containers. Which would take care of the site plan or the violation as well. Because we give people 30 days to take care of the violation initially when you get the first letter. So it is an option. I'm still hesitant to recommend that option, but it is an option. And we could keep an eye on it, because it essentially is the same thing, adding a condition on this conditional use of the removal of the shipping containers would in 30 days. And then also that violation will be taken care of in the hand.
And the CUP deals with some of the other site problems.
Right, I mean, and yes,
They're in the staff recommendation.
yeah, there is, if you turn to the conditions there, it talks about, taking away any remnant of that existing wood lot, any storage associated with that.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. Donna, do you have another question?
So I just wanted to be sure, if I could ask the applicant, if moving the two containers is a practical consideration in your end. Can you do that easily and without undue expense?
I don't know where to move. Where do I move? I mean, on my behalf, the container's been there for some time. And they had a job to do, so they get this application. Yeah, I started putting in some new windows, which I'm a contractor for 35 years here in town. I own absolute design. And I do know what you have to have a permit for and what you don't have to have a permit for. So I started installing some new windows, taking out the old windows. And I asked one of the inspectors, which is Lucas, to come by and look at the building and stuff, and Lucas and I went over it. I showed him what we were doing. He agreed that I was okay, but he also said it's time to submit the paperwork, which we were in the process of doing, due to the fact that we found out we had to have a site plan. Well, without the site plan, I can't have a permit, so I can't do what I'm supposed to be doing to the building. The containers were brought in because I have a large amount of materials that were gonna be used on the building. And I just don't know where I would take them unless I take them back out to the gentleman that I'm renting them from. So I rent them by the month. And believe me, I don't want to pay the rent. And the process just continues to go on. The deal about the wood. I store my wood there for my private use at my home, and I cut my wood up and I take it down to the house and burn it. The gentleman behind me, if you look over the fence, he's got just as much wood as me. He's not asked to remove his wood. I have several friends that process their own wood in town here, and I know there's a lot of people in town that process their own wood. They're not asked to, have the wood removed. I know the code. I don't know what to do, gentlemen. If I need to remove the containers ASAP, then I'll call the gentleman and I'll have them removed tomorrow. It'll be a dime on my part. But if this is gonna, help you guys make a decision that I can move forward. The property next to it, well, across the street from it, the green building, which I'm sure you're all aware of, that's West Block Vintage, it's a little vintage. That was my project last year. And that building there, I bought from Joe Lindy, and it was an old building, and we modified it and we made it look good. We just want to do the same thing to the other corner. And excuse after excuse after excuse, no matter what it is, I've tried to comply and I just keep getting pushed back. And it's hard. And I've heard a lot of stories. I'm not even going to go there, but a lot of people give up. I'm not giving up. I've got a lot of money invested in some time, and we just want to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Can I, Bruce?
Keep it short.
Okay, yeah, respectfully, you're saying. Chair Council, I just want to make sure that we're clear too, if it's almost like discovered information. Now that we know these containers exist, but we also know what they're being used for. They're not just storing random things, that it's actually for the support of the site and the construction. I guess that would be my question to the city. Is that that condition on the conditional use permit would be, hey, they can stay in place if they're being used for one of those exceptions of a shipping container on, a B2 zone. Until he's done, building it, and then they could go away. I think he's worried about, oh, do I immediately have to get rid of them, take all my stuff out, restore it somewhere else? So I just want to make sure,
How,
as you guys look at
how
that,
long would that construction project take? What's the,
I mean,
I've got people in line to do everything that just, I don't got a permit.
well, if you have everything in line, how long is this process gonna take?
I would say probably by June I could be done. It just, I have to get them scheduled in now because we don't know where we're at with the permits.
and that would probably be a piece of it, right? We're only gonna give him 6 months or some sort of,
Yes.
finite time, that as long as he's comfortable and the city's comfortable that he can use those within that time. So anyways, thank you.
Phil, how long does it take to obtain a building permit? Like, explain to me how long, if we put additional conditions on this conditional use permit, then that allows him to pursue a building permit. How long, what is the most expedient timeline that he could get a building permit?
Yes, Chairman Schneider, yes. So if the conditional use permit were approved this evening, he could get his building permit tomorrow because he's already submitted. It's already been reviewed by by code administration. They're just waiting on this conditional use permit to go through.
Okay, so if we were to put a condition on this, that he obtain a building permit within a few days of this approval, even though those boxes are there right now without a permit, they would be permitted, and then when he was done, make that condition that they're removed, then can we all be, give or take, sort of happy about it?
Yeah, again,
I mean, other than him currently not having the permit for this.
yes, again, I think that so it's perfectly fine, according to the code I just read, to have shipping containers on a construction site.
Right.
Even 30 days after a building permit is, finished, like all the work's done on the building permit. So that's perfectly fine. I just, the process to which we've gotten to this point can't be unnoticed. And I just want planning commission to acknowledge, that even, we just noticed them. And the applicant himself saying that they've been there since June. So I know this enforcement process didn't start until, I believe, November. So.
Okay. No, we get it. We get it, but,
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah,
I mean,
I'm not gonna defend or make excuses for anybody, I guess.
which is between, us kids, it'd be nice just to move this thing through. And, let him build his. If he's gonna move on it and get it done by June and the containers go away. What the heck, what's the?
He will be no friends if he doesn't do that, that's for sure.
Right,
Yeah.
so
That's good, yeah.
sort of thinking bygones be bygones.
I mean, it's always beneficial for development to happen and for neighborhoods to be, improved. I mean, that's what it currently
Right,
looks
right.
like, And I'm not a fan of promoting, that's not following the code, but more of the process, but I don't care,
Philip,
Mr. Chair, I just feel like I know which direction this is heading. I think just to add a little bit of positivity from our end that I didn't share in the staff report, but the only public comment we did receive was a positive
right.
from a neighbor stating just that. So I just wanted to add that, as well as the property that Mr. Buskowitz mentioned before, that's across the street, the West Block Vintage Place, turned out very nice as well, followed code. We had to go through a violation on that one as well. just to let you know. The same process where work was being done without a permit, but eventually we got it done and it looks good. So from our side of things, we just want to be sure that we're clear with not just Mr. Buskowitz, but all subsequent folks that a building permit is required for work. And that, always come talk to us whenever you're going to do anything new, but just a little icing on the cake.
Yeah, can I ask the applicant one more question? And it may be a little tongue in cheek, but to Philip's point, do you have any other properties that you're planning on developing that? I mean, you know, you're well aware of the process now,
I've known the process for a long time.
but the
No.
site plan process is a little.
No, actually, this is my second, no, I retired as of January from contracting, so I'm gonna sell implements that I can put my building together. No more jobs.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
Okay, so, done discussion? Yeah, is there anybody out there? I don't see any, so we'll just finalize a motion, and if whoever does the motion, you know, be ready with some additional conditions, all right?
Yes.
There's a motion out there.
I will move to approve conditional use permit CUP 23-07, 09. Up here it's 07. Oh, okay, it's 09. For the site redevelopment of 408 Grant Street into an equipment sales business within a P2 business zoning district based
Sure.
on
That wasn't correct.
Yeah.
That should be CUP 23-7. CUP 32909 is on the agenda. It's
We'll try it again, and it is 07.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. Move to approve conditional use permit CUP 23-07 for the site redevelopment of 408 Grant Street into an equipment sales business within a B2 business zoning district based on findings of fact and conclusions of law and subject to all staff's recommended conditions with the additional condition that all connexes and temporary storage facilities on the property be removed within 30
That's
days.
June.
Yes, within 30 days of completion of the project.
Why don't we set a
Set a date, sir,
date, yeah,
June 15th.
okay. 2024. So,
Works for me.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second. Further discussion? None?
I do have one question, one clarification, June 15th is that the date we're setting for final completion or the date for?
The date the connexes are added.
And I think that was clear anyways.
Okay.
Did you get that right?
By June 15th.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Thanks, that's it. Okay, Dixon,
Aye.
Matamore,
Aye.
O'Toole,
Aye.
Pacific,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
and Moody.
Aye.
That is 6 yeses and 0 no's.
Okay, go get your building permit.
Thank you.
You're done.
Tomorrow.
Guys.
Get her done.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Out of here.
thanks.
Thanks for sharing.